Hello, and welcome to the Bedtime Sleep, a place where the universe whispers softly and science becomes a lullaby. If you enjoy journeys like this, where knowledge is slow, soothing, and personal, make sure to subscribe for new bedtime stories every day, and leave your thoughts or dreams in the comments below. Now, find a gentle place to rest, because tonight we begin with something invisible, something quiet, and something astonishing. You breathe in, feel the rise of your chest. Somewhere beneath that breath, beneath the warmth of your skin, beneath the heartbeat echoing in your chest, lies something so small you cannot touch it, yet so powerful it writes the entire story of your being. In the stillness of your cells, a language is written in 4 soft letters: A, T, C, and G. They're not words, but they speak. This is your genetic code, the map inside you. It doesn't shout. It doesn't glow. It doesn't ask for your attention. And yet, every cell in your body listens to it, follows its script like a lullaby that's been playing since before you were born. Imagine a vast library, with pages not made of paper, but of spiraling strands so delicate they dance in water, each one coiled tightly in a tiny space, wrapped with care in your cells, billions of cells, each carrying a complete copy of you. The letters A, T, C, and G are like musical notes in a score, repeating in rhythms and melodies passed on from your mother, and your mother's mother, and all those who came before them. They arranged the color of your eyes, the curl in your hair, the shape of your hands when they rest in stillness. And they did it with no ink, no pen, just time, just molecules whispering to one another in the quiet. You are built from these whispers. Every morning when you stretch your arms, your body is reading from this map, knowing how to repair a wound, how to digest your breakfast, how to remember the scent of rain. But this map isn't still. It breathes. It shifts. Not every letter is fixed forever. Sometimes little slips occur. A letter swapped, a line repeated. And in those slips, life sometimes changes. Sometimes with danger. Sometimes with surprise. Sometimes it makes no difference at all. Tonight, you lie beside this idea that your body is a library written in code, and every cell, every breath, is a soft echo of that code being read again. Close your eyes. Picture yourself shrinking gently, as if falling slowly into your own skin, past the warmth of muscle, past the river of your blood, into a single, round, shining cell. Inside it, the code unfurls like a scroll. You can't read it in the usual way. There are no sentences, only instructions, layered in sequence, telling your cell what to do, how to be. It tells your skin when to grow, your bones when to stop, your eyes when to close. Even now, as you begin to fall into sleep, the map is still speaking quietly, guiding cells to repair, to renew, to remember. It is the most faithful guide you've never met, and it has been guiding others before you for millions of years. Because this map, this DNA, didn't begin with you. It is ancient, a message passed on again and again. From the first spark of life in the ocean, to animals crawling from water, to your ancestors who watched stars and built stories around fire, you carry not only your own story, but the silent stories of those who lived and breathed long before your name existed. The curve of your ear, the timing of your heartbeat, the rhythm of your lungs. These are inherited songs, taught to your body by those who walked this world before you. They never met you, but they gave you this map, not on purpose, not by plan, but through time, through trial, Through the unspoken trust of biology, there is comfort in knowing you're never fully alone. Even now, as you rest in the dark, the strands inside you hum like ancient strings. They do not judge. They do not forget. They simply keep you whole. And yet, this map is not destiny. It does not tell you who to be. It tells your body how to begin. But it leaves space. Space for choice. Space for change. Space for you. The code inside you holds doors, not walls. And the more we come to understand this quiet script, the more we wonder, could we read it well enough to rewrite it? Could we fix the places where it falters? Could we choose the starting notes for those yet to be born? You are drifting now, deep into the space between breath and thought, your body still, your mind sailing through molecular memory. You are not just made of cells. You are made of legacy, of data that lived through storm and fire, of sequences shaped by chance and care, threaded through generations and sealed in the spiral of your DNA. You are living evidence of survival and of astonishing design. And now that we've seen this map, its beauty, its power, its poetry out, we ask softly, where does this river of inheritance lead? Because if this map flows forward as well as back, then perhaps what you carry isn't only memory. Perhaps it is also a beginning. A river has a source, yes, but it also has a mouth. And in the next breath, in the next dream, we'll drift along that river into the quiet current of inheritance. The river has no beginning you can see. It slips through time, unseen, unheard, carving its way through generations. A current made not of water, but of tiny messages carried through your cells. You lie still now, cradled in sleep's soft hands. But inside you, something flows. A stream of inherited information. A quiet tide of memory written in molecules. Last night, you saw the map inside you, its spiraling thread and careful code. Tonight, you float upon the river that brought that map into your hands, the river of inheritance. Your body, your eyes, your breath. They are echoes of others, not echoes you can hear, but ones you can feel. Look at your hands, even if only in your mind's eye. See the curve of the fingers, the lines that crease your palm. They may remind someone of your mother, or your grandfather, or a great-great-grandmother you've never heard of, who stood beneath a sky just like yours and wondered who she would become. You carry her story, not her memories, not her voice, but the patterns of her survival, the code that told her body how to grow, how to repair, how to move forward. You carry it, too. You are a continuation, a thread picked up mid-stitch. And while your body is uniquely yours, your thoughts, your dreams, your choices, the blueprint you grew from came from far upstream. From parents, yes, but also from the ones who carried them, and the ones who carried those. Each life added a small twist, a small bend in the river. Each choice, each chance, each breath of a life lived, found its way into the patterns that shape you now. Inheritance is not just about blood. It is about persistence. It is about the decisions life made to keep moving forward, even in the face of darkness. A gene for stronger bones, a gene for deeper sleep, a gene that allows your eyes to adjust gently to twilight. These are not gifts. They're stories, written not in words, but in the way your body knows how to live. Close your eyes again. Picture the river this time, not of water, but of light, glowing threads streaming through time, not straight, but winding, pausing, sometimes splitting, sometimes looping back. And in the current, small boats float. Each boat carries information. A strand, a letter, a code. They travel from past to present, They reach you, and they keep going. You are not the end of this story. You are the bridge. Some of those boats carry genes that shaped your laughter. Some carry the way your skin freckles in the sun. Some, the way your body responds to pain. But not all messages are clear. Some carry risks, like a pebble hidden beneath the water, a chance for illness, a tendency passed forward without warning. Yet still, the river flows, because the body, your body, learns, adapts, mends, remembers. And now, scientists can see the river in ways no one could before. They can trace traits through time, like tracking a single leaf from mountaintop to ocean, with tools like genome sequencing. We read this river, searching not just for history, but for possibility. And one day, maybe, we'll learn how to guide it. You may wonder, if the river brought you here, can you shape where it flows next? The answer begins in your cells, but continues in your thoughts. Because inheritance isn't only biological, it's emotional, it's behavioral, it's choices passed from heart to heart, not just from cell to cell. The way you speak, the values you hold, the stories you tell to those you love. These, too, are inherited, not in strands, but in spirit. You are more than your DNA. You're also your experience. And when both meet, when your nature and your nurture sit beside one another, a new current forms. This is the place you sleep in now, a still pool along the river, where reflection lives. Tonight, feel the comfort of being carried, not just by your bed, but by the lives that made your life possible. Let yourself float in the quiet idea that you are not here by accident. You are here by effort, by survival, by hope tucked into cells and passed through time. You don't need to understand every gene to feel this. Just rest and know that your body remembers things you never learned. Somewhere in your cells, you carry the memory of sunlit forests, of bitter winters survived, of hands building, voices singing, hearts continuing. And you, tonight, continue still. You are the present moment of a long river. You carry all that came before. But you do not carry it alone. Every person does. Every living thing. The birds. The trees. The smallest creatures sleeping in the soil. They carry their own rivers. And some of those rivers once crossed yours. Tonight, you drift beside them, carried by time, held by biology, surrounded by echoes. And as you breathe slowly, deeply, the question begins to rise like mist over water. If we inherit so much, from so many, is it possible to begin shaping what we pass forward? Can we reach into the river and gently guide its path? The river flows gently tonight, and you drift upon it still, held by its warmth. It has carried you through time, through faces and families and features you didn't choose. But what if, for the first time in all these generations, we could dip a hand into that river and move a single drop? Welcome back to the Bedtime Sleep, where we journey slowly through the vast and hidden beauty of science. If you find comfort in the quiet unfolding of these stories, be sure to subscribe for new bedtime episodes each evening, and share your thoughts in the comments. What dreams do these thoughts stir in you? Now close your eyes again. Breathe deeply. Tonight, we speak not only of inheritance, but of intention. You already carry a map inside you, a code made of 4 letters A, T, C, G, repeating in gentle rhythms, telling your cells how to become you. But now, imagine if we could edit that code, not with ink, not with erasers or pencils, but with something even smaller, something that moves among the letters like a whisper, correcting typos, removing harm, or even adding possibility. That something is called CRISPR. It sounds like the name of a star, but it lives here on Earth, within the world of your cells. It is a tool, a kind of molecular scissor, designed to seek out a specific place in the genetic sequence and make a tiny cut. Then, the cell can repair that cut, either by removing, inserting, or replacing the genetic text, like an editor revising a manuscript in the dark. It began, long ago, with a battle between bacteria and viruses. Bacteria, under constant attack, developed a clever defense. They learned to recognize the invader's genetic material, to cut it, to remember it, to protect themselves the next time. From that ancient war, scientists borrowed the idea, and now, with delicate precision, they use CRISPR to edit the code of life itself. You might wonder, what does this mean? Can we change eye color? Can we remove illness? Can we build a body from scratch? Yes. No. Maybe. The truth is quieter than you'd expect. CRISPR is not magic. It is not an artist with unlimited paint. It is a tool, sharp and specific. Its greatest strength lies not in fantasy, but in healing. There are diseases written into the code, spelling errors in the genetic book, that cause great suffering. Sickle cell disease, cystic fibrosis, certain types of inherited blindness. For some of these, CRISPR has already begun to make a difference. A faulty gene can be cut, a correction made, and suddenly a life that once knew pain can move more freely, more gently, into the world. And yet, even as the promise glows brightly, so too does the question. Where do we draw the line? Should we edit only for illness? What about traits? What about memory? What about intelligence or emotion? As you lie there, your breath soft and slow, imagine a world where we could choose what a child might become, not just free from harm, but shaped by design. It sounds like hope. It also sounds like power. And power must always be handled with great care. There is a beauty in imperfection, in randomness, in the surprise of a new life unfolding without blueprint. To edit the code is to risk losing some of that mystery. And yet, there is beauty, too, in compassion, in removing suffering before it begins, in helping a child see, or walk, or live without pain. CRISPR offers a choice, but only in the smallest, slowest steps. It is not yet something for all. It is not yet simple, but it is real. And as you float deeper into sleep, let this image rest with you. A scientist sitting quietly in a lab, not a giant room of machines. Just one desk, a microscope, a cell on a slide. Inside that cell, a gene. Inside the gene, a letter. And with great care, the scientist makes a change, like a poet choosing a softer word. And because of that one change, someone, years later, someone who may never know that scientist's name, can run, can sing, can live. It is not control. It is not certainty. It is a kind of hope. Written in molecular whispers, you may never feel this edit, never sense the work being done, but somewhere tonight, a child sleeps, carrying a gene that no longer harms them, because someone dared to reach into the code and change a single note in the song of life. And so we ask softly, as sleep draws closer, what else might we learn to heal? What else lies quietly in the code, waiting to be touched? Carefully, lovingly, gently? Because in the code, there are not just instructions, there are seeds. And in the next chapter, we'll follow one from its beginning, a tiny cell not yet shaped, to the distant dreams it might become, a journey into the possibility of tomorrow's children. Before their first breath, the night is deep and quiet. You are wrapped in stillness, held by rhythm, carried by breath. Welcome back to the Bedtime Sleep. Here, you are safe in thought, where science and sleep walk hand in hand through fields of wonder. Subscribe if these gentle stories help you rest, and share the questions that stir your spirit in the comments below. Tonight, the question becomes even softer, even more tender. Can love shape life? Before life begins, let's drift together into a thought, not a loud one, a whisper. Imagine a child not yet born, not even conceived, still an idea, floating in the warm, invisible space between two hearts, who wish to pass something forward. And now imagine that these hearts could do more than hope. Imagine they could look into the blueprint of that possible child, the map not yet drawn, and choose where the rivers will bend, not for vanity, not for perfection, but to ease suffering, to remove a future filled with pain before it has a chance to begin. That is the dream some hold, as they gaze at the shimmering strands of DNA within a fertilized egg, a single cell, no larger than a speck of dust, carrying the full instructions for a lifetime. And with CRISPR, or tools like it, scientists have begun to reach into that cell and gently shape it. This is not fiction. It has already happened in a quiet lab, with more caution than celebration. Genes have been edited in embryos, correcting mutations known to bring severe illness. Most of these experiments remain closely guarded, their outcomes debated, their ethics questioned. And yet, the question remains: if you could prevent suffering in your child, if you could remove a shadow from their future, would you? The thought settles like fog. It lingers gently in the corners of your mind. You are not only a person, you are a bridge, a link between what came before and what might come next. And in your body, there are cells that carry the full potential to begin again. Eggs, sperm, seeds, each one a tiny vessel, filled with both memory and possibility, each one an unopened letter, written in code. And now, perhaps, we can edit those letters before they are mailed. It sounds like control, but it is more like gardening. We do not build the seed. We do not force the tree, but perhaps we can remove the thorn that would keep it from blooming. Imagine holding a future child in your arms. Now imagine knowing, before they even arrived, that they would never suffer the disease that haunted your family. Is that not a form of love? But love must be careful, because to choose what to remove is also to choose what to keep. And some traits are not easily divided into good or bad. The gene that brings brilliant memory might also bring anxiety. The gene that protects against one disease might raise risk for another. We do not yet know all the threads in this tapestry, and so the work is done slowly, delicately, with questions asked again and again. What is safe? What is right? What is enough? Because to guide life, before it begins, is to walk a sacred path. And yet, our footsteps have already touched it. In some corners of the world, embryos are screened for health, for compatibility, for known disorders, and in the future, perhaps more. Perhaps the choice of resilience, perhaps stronger bones, perhaps deeper sleep, or better vision, or a lower risk of sadness. The line is not fixed. It is soft, like sand that shifts as the tide rises. Tonight, you lie on that shore, between what is and what could be. You feel the weight of the question. If we can choose some traits for our children, which ones do we choose? And which do we leave to mystery? Because sometimes, in the twists of imperfection, something extraordinary is born. A mind that works differently, a voice that breaks the silence, a perspective no one expected. Would we edit that out, not knowing what wonder it would bring? These are not questions with easy answers, but sleep welcomes questions that don't need solving yet. It holds space for wonder, for imagining without deciding. You float now through a quiet field. Each seed you pass is a possible future, a child not yet born, a trait not yet chosen, a song not yet sung. And all around you, science watches, asks, learns. In one lab, a faulty gene is silenced. In another, a mouse is born without the illness its ancestors knew. In another still, a team of scientists stands silently before a dish of cells, grappling not with technology, but with choice. This is where we are, and it is where you sleep tonight. In the hush between past and future, you too are a seed, a result of unchosen chances, of mistakes that became magic, of inheritances wrapped in mystery. And now, perhaps, you are part of choosing what comes next. Tomorrow's generations may grow from decisions made in quiet rooms. They may carry fewer shadows. They may be shaped by hands they will never see. But what else will they carry? And what stories will be written in their version of the code? Because even as we dream of soft edits, of healing and help, we must ask again, can we design the future without erasing the heart of it? Can we plant seeds of love without shaping them into sameness? And just before you slip beneath the surface of sleep, one final thought drifts near. If a single gene can change so much, how much more could be waiting quietly in just one? Welcome once more to the Bedtime Sleep. Here, the world slows, and your thoughts drift gently into the folds of science and story. If these calm journeys bring you comfort, remember to subscribe and leave your dreams or reflections in the comments below. Your voice, like every strand of DNA, adds something precious. Now take a breath, a soft one. Let it settle into your chest like moonlight on water. Tonight, we listen closely, not to the roaring genes, not to the vast changes or sweeping edits, but to the smallest whispers, the quietest commands in the script of life, the single gene. You may think something so small cannot hold much power, but within the double helix, within the winding ladder of your DNA, some genes hold keys that unlock entire doorways. One gene, a string of letters, perhaps a few hundred long, tiny when compared to the 3 billion letters in your genome. Yet change a single letter, and the result can echo through a lifetime. You've heard of these before, even if you didn't know their names. A shift in one gene can mean the difference between normal blood and sickle-shaped cells that struggle to carry oxygen. A single mutation can make muscles fade over time, or give the eyes trouble seeing light. These are not metaphors. They are the result of tiny, literal differences. IC swapped for AT, a deletion, a duplication, and that's all. Just like one wrong note in a song that changes the way it is heard forever. But not every mutation is harmful. Some are protective. Some go unnoticed, like silent pages in a book you never read. And some create beauty, the swirl of a fingerprint, the shimmer of a blue iris, the unique bend in your smile. You carry thousands of these changes, as does everyone, and each one speaks in its own way, asking your cells to do something specific, sometimes loudly, sometimes faintly, sometimes not at all. Because a gene does not act alone. It depends on its neighbors, on when it turns on when it stays silent. Even a powerful gene, a conductor of an orchestra, needs the musicians to play along. And sometimes, the rest of the genome chooses to hum a different tune. You see, in your body, context is everything. Tonight, as you rest, know this. Inside you are genes that would make no sense. In another body, in another time, in another place. They work here in you. Because everything else is arranged just so. Because the body is not a machine. It is a symphony. And genes are not blueprints. They are suggestions, possibilities, instructions waiting to be read in just the right light. Some genes are inherited like legacies, guarded through generations. Others are brand new, appearing for the first time in you. These spontaneous changes, called de novo mutations, can shape things never seen before in your family line. A new ability, a vulnerability, a trait no ancestor knew. And that, too, is powerful because it reminds us the future isn't only inherited, it's also invented. In every embryo, every cell dividing in the dark, there's room for something new, a gene to stumble, a gene to soar, a gene to quietly alter the path without ever being noticed. Scientists have identified genes linked to countless traits and conditions, some with clear consequences, others mysterious still. There are genes linked to memory, to musical ability, to how quickly your heart recovers after fear. But linked does not mean guaranteed. It means the river might bend a little more that way, not that it must. You may carry a gene that suggests a storm, but live your whole life in calm skies. Because genes are not fate, they are possibility. And so, as you lie here, with your thoughts softening and your breath slowing, you begin to feel the strange power of not knowing exactly what lives inside you. It is not frightening. It is full of wonder, because your genes are still working, even as you sleep, still whispering their commands, still folding proteins, repairing cells, shaping your dreams in ways even you do not feel. Your body, without your asking, knows what to do, because a single gene has already told it. And sometimes, that gene's voice is so strong, it doesn't just affect one person. It changes generations. Hemophilia, Huntington's disease, color blindness. These traits ripple outward, moving through family lines, like threads that tug gently on each new life. That is the quiet power of a gene, not in noise, but in continuation, in the way something so small can shape everything that comes next. And the more we learn, the more we wonder, if a single gene can do so much, what responsibility do we have to notice it, to understand it, to listen? Because listening is where all gentle change begins. In the next breath, in the next sleep, you carry this truth. That change need not be loud to be real. A single gene, in a single embryo, with a single twist, can mark the beginning of a different future. So now, as the night deepens, you may begin to drift away, not with fear, but with curiosity. What else lies in the sequence? Just waiting, quietly, softly, for someone to hear it. And as your mind floats farther, you begin to wonder if these tiny changes hold so much weight. How do we choose which ones to make? And what principles guide our hand when the choice becomes ours? Because to change even one letter in the code is not just a science. It is a question of ethics, of care, of compassion. And in the next chapter, we'll step gently into that space, Where biology meets responsibility, there is a pause between progress and choice. A hush where questions gather. You are floating there now, adrift in a soft, reflective stillness, where the code of life and the soul of humanity begin to touch. In the chapters behind you, you followed the river of inheritance, felt the map of genes written inside you, watched as science began to softly rewrite the song of life. But even in sleep, a deeper part of you wonders, where's the line? A single gene can heal, but it can also raise questions too heavy for the lab table. Not questions of how, but questions of why, and who, and what happens next. These are the ethics of biology, the invisible thread work, woven through every petri dish, every clinical trial, every edit that dares to change what nature gave. To edit DNA is not like writing a story. It is more like pruning a tree that will grow for generations. You don't just shape the present. You reshape the future, possibly forever. Now imagine a scientist standing in a quiet lab. A fertilized egg rests beneath a microscope. Inside it, a mutation known to bring illness. Real, lifelong suffering. The scientist can remove it. The edit is clean. The child could live without the weight their ancestors carried. But then comes the voice. Soft, uncertain. Should I? Do I have the right to change what nature may have intended? And what if something else changes too, something I can't see? Because genes are connected. Tug one thread, and others may shift. And beyond the biology, there is something even more fragile. Choice, responsibility, human intent. What we change reflects what we value. And sometimes, without meaning to, we begin to erase differences that make the world richer. Differences that bring challenge, yes, but also color, perspective, resilience, depth. If we remove all risk, do we also lose the chance for unexpected beauty? This is why bioethics exists, not to stop the river, but to guide it gently, to protect the dignity of every being who may be shaped by science's hand. Think of the deaf community. There are genes that influence hearing. Science may one day offer ways to correct them. But many who are deaf do not see themselves as broken. Their culture, their language, their way of being is not something to erase. It is something to understand. The same is true for neurodiversity. Autism, ADHD, dyslexia. These are not flaws to everyone. They are different ways of experiencing the world. So if a parent could choose, what should they choose? And who decides what traits are worthy or unworthy of being passed on? You are lying quietly in the space between these questions. You are not meant to answer them all, just to feel them, to let them move gently through your thoughts. As a reminder that science is not only about discovery, but about care. Some edits may be simple, removing a disease that steals life early. Few would question that choice. But what about height, mood, intelligence? Even if we could predict them perfectly, we cannot yet. Would it be wise to choose? Would we begin to design not just children, but expectations? Would love begin to depend on outcomes? Would difference start to feel like failure? You turn slowly in your bed. The air still. Your mind draped in quiet wonder. No one is born perfect. That truth is tender and essential, because perfection isn't real. And even if it were, would it be kind? To be human is to be full of limits. But those limits are also where compassion grows, where support lives, where community begins. Science must walk with those truths, not ahead of them, not around them. Already, governments and councils debate the ethics of editing embryos, of selecting traits, of drawing the line between therapy and enhancement. Some fear a future where only the wealthy can afford to shape their children's traits, where privilege is not just taught, but encoded, a genetic divide, a future of inequality, written in DNA. That is why the question isn't only scientific. It's social. It's emotional. It's deeply human. You rest in that humanness now. A quiet body, built from unchosen code, and yet full of choices. Your parents didn't shape your genes. They loved you as you came, and that love was its own kind of perfect. In the same way, science must not replace love. It must serve it. To edit the code should never be about control, but about care, not to build a better human, but to relieve unnecessary pain, to honor life, not only for what it could become, but for what it already is, somewhere in the future. A parent may face the choice to edit or not to edit. They will not decide alone. They will be held by ethics, by loss, by public trust. But most of all, they will be held by love. And love does not rush. It listens. It waits. It asks questions without needing all the answers. Tonight, you have asked those questions too, not to solve them, but to sleep beside them, to trust that the future can be thoughtful, can be tender, can move slowly, even as science moves fast, because inside every ethical thread, there is something precious, the weight of another person's life. So now, as your body softens into sleep, the final thought of this chapter comes, like wind through grass. If we carry the power to shape the code, what kind of world do we want to shape it for? And in the next chapter, we'll dream about that world, not through laws or headlines, but through the eyes of a child who has just arrived. There is a hush that surrounds a newborn. It is not silence, but something softer, a warmth in the room, a breath held by time. And in that moment, when a child first arrives, the world tilts ever so slightly, as if to welcome something ancient and brand new all at once. Tonight, you rest beside that moment. You close your eyes and drift toward it, not as a witness, but as a quiet presence. The child is here, but their story began long ago. In code, in cells, in choices. This child is among the first to be born into a world where the blueprint of life was gently touched before birth, a gene edited, a risk removed, a small rewrite in the song of inheritance, not to build perfection, not to control, but to help, to protect, to offer a life with less suffering. You lie still now, imagining the light in the delivery room, the calm hands that welcome, the first cry, not of fear, but of newness. The parents look on. They know the choice they made, to edit one line of their child's DNA, not to choose who their child would become, but to clear one shadow from the path ahead. Maybe it was a disease that had run in the family. Maybe it was a disorder they themselves had carried. Maybe it was simply the desire to give their child a better chance at thriving. The edit was precise, small, carefully reviewed, watched over by laws, by ethics committees, by time. And now, the child opens their eyes, unaware of the journey behind them, unaware of the gentle nudge that made their cells slightly different. This is not a story of destiny. This is a story of beginning. The blueprint has changed, but the future remains unwritten, because DNA is only the first line. It is not the full story. It is the soil, not the tree. This child will grow, stumble, dream, make choices far beyond the reach of any gene. They will be shaped by laughter, by love, by the rhythm of bedtime songs, and the tug of morning light. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a thread has been shifted. A door once locked is now open. A pain once probable is now impossible. And that, quietly, is everything. The parents do not speak of the edit often, not because it is shameful, but because it does not define their child. It was a gesture, a kindness, a silent note left in the margins of their life's first page. Still, questions linger in the world around them. Will this child be different? Will they be expected to be more? Will others see them not as someone who was loved, but as someone who was designed? These are questions that live not in science, but in society, in how we talk about choice, in how we hold difference, in how we define what it means to be natural. But nature itself edits constantly. Every generation brings change. Every cell mutates. Every genome rewrites in small, chaotic ways. The difference now is intention. This edit was not random. It was planned, measured, guided by care. And perhaps that is what makes it feel so strange. Not because it is unnatural, but because it is deeply human to see a problem and wish to mend it, to see suffering and wish to ease it. That is not science. That is love. Wearing the tools of science like gloves, you are resting now in the aftermath of that love. A world that is not perfect, but one where some burdens have been lifted before they could ever begin. There are no parades for this child, no bright banners of achievement, only quiet mornings, gentle routines, the normal, beautiful mess of growing up. And that's what matters most, that life, even when carefully shaped, still unfolds unpredictably, still surprises, still teaches. The blueprint changed the beginning, but the child still writes the rest. As you float deeper into rest, you imagine them years from now, not as a miracle, not as a marvel, but as a person, running, singing, arguing with a friend, falling in love, and perhaps someday, facing their own decision, because this moment is just the beginning. As the science matures, more families will make similar choices. More children will be born with edits in their code. The world will need to grow with them, to speak gently, to remember that what makes someone human is not their genome, but their presence, their voice, their wonder. Even now, scientists dream of what else can be helped, what diseases can be removed, what risks can be softened, what futures can be nurtured into bloom. But always, there will be more questions, more pauses, more ethical shadows to sit with under the stars. And that is a good thing, because to move carefully is not to move slowly. It is to move rightly. Tonight, you rest in the ripple of that very movement, of generations beginning to hold the code, not just as data, but as a gift. And so we ask, if the blueprint is flexible, if the beginning can be softened, what happens next? When the child grows up and asks, what else can I become? The code is quiet now. It hums in the background, steady as your own breath. But tonight, you step past its edges. You drift beyond the 4 letters. That once felt like destiny. The child you met in the last chapter, growing now, laughing now, walks into a world full of choices, challenges, accidents, surprises. And here is where the story changes. Because while DNA lays the groundwork, it does not dictate the life that grows on top of it. Imagine again the edited child, now several years old. The body is strong. The illness once feared never arrived. The edit worked. But what truly shapes this child is happening far beyond the nucleus of any cell. It is shaped in the playground, in the gaze of a parent during bedtime, in stories whispered before sleep, in scraped knees and forgiven mistakes, in a storm outside the window. That makes the child curl close to someone they trust. These are the moments that genes cannot predict, because the human mind, your mind, is more than inheritance. It is shaped by experience. This is called epigenetics, how environment and emotion can influence which genes are expressed and when. It is like a dimmer switch, gently adjusting the volume of the song. The melody remains, but its intensity rises and falls with life. You might carry a gene that whispers anxiety, but a calm, nurturing home may keep it quiet. Or you might carry resilience, yet life may still press too hard and awaken a sadness you didn't expect. So while genes provide possibility, life provides direction, and that direction is full of forks in the road. You learn to walk, not just because you were programmed to, but because someone reached out a hand. You learn to speak, not because your genes said language, but because someone spoke back. We become, in response to what greets us. Even a child born with a perfect genome will still need love, will still make mistakes, will still grow in directions no code could predict. This, too, is science, the messy, brilliant study of how humans become who they are. Neurons grow stronger through use. Experiences sculpt the brain. Thoughts shape hormones. Stress shifts biology. Joy rewires memory. This means you are not only what you were given, you are what you've lived, and who you've loved, and what you've feared, and how you've recovered. The genome is not a script. It's more like a seed, and every seed needs the right conditions to bloom fully. You may carry potential that never gets triggered. You may grow strength you were never coded for, because life isn't coded. It's lived. Tonight, you float in that truth, that your body contains the code, but your soul contains the becoming. And that becoming is never finished. It's not bound by age. It doesn't stop at adulthood. It continues, quietly, beautifully, through every new day. The child you once were is still becoming. The adult you are now still rearranges pieces of the self, like puzzle tiles shifting in soft hands. And every experience, every quiet heartbreak, every little win, adds something new to the person you are. Scientists call this plasticity, especially in the brain. It means flexibility. It means you change, even when the code doesn't. You can rewire. You can adapt. You can soften what was hard and strengthen what was weak. So what does that mean for the edited child? It means their story isn't fixed. Even with a changed gene, they are still fully human, still fragile, still evolving. They may grow into joy, or into anger, into empathy, or ambition, not because of the edit, but because of how the world holds them. And if they're told, you were designed, what does that feel like? A gift? A burden? A prophecy? That, too, shapes them. Labels become self-perception. Expectations become pressure or freedom. You are resting now, but your mind knows these truths. It has felt the weight of becoming, the pressure of what others thought you could be, the quiet rebellion of becoming something else instead. Even now, you continue to shift. Even in sleep, your cells renew. Your thoughts settle into new shapes. You heal in small, invisible ways. And so will the children of tomorrow, edited or not. Because beyond the code is everything that makes us fully alive. Laughter, music, grief, forgiveness, first crushes, old regrets, art that makes you cry, conversations you replay in the shower, Moments when someone chose you, even when you didn't feel worthy. The code cannot measure these things, but they build you. They form your internal architecture more deeply than a single gene ever could. So tonight, as you lie there soft and still, you are reminded, you are more than your beginning. You are more than your bloodline. You are even more than your potential. You are what you've lived, and how you've lived through it. The blueprint whispered the opening lines. But you, your heart, your breath, your choices, wrote the rest. And as you drift toward dreams, a final soft question floats toward you. If you are more than your code, could we raise children, not just by editing their DNA, but by editing the world they grow in? A better school, a gentler home, a society with space for softness. Because maybe the most powerful edits are not in the gene, but in the garden around it. The code is quiet now. It hums in the background, steady as your own breath. But tonight, you step past its edges. You drift beyond the four letters. That once felt like destiny. The child you met in the last chapter, growing now, laughing now, walks into a world full of choices, challenges, accidents, surprises. And here is where the story changes. Because while DNA lays the groundwork, it does not dictate the life that grows on top of it. Imagine again that edited child, now several years old. The body is strong. The illness once feared never arrived. The edit worked. But what truly shapes this child is happening far beyond the nucleus of any cell. It is shaped in the playground, in the gaze of a parent during bedtime, in stories whispered before sleep, in scraped knees and forgiven mistakes, in a storm outside the window. That makes the child curl close to someone they trust. These are the moments that genes cannot predict, because the human mind, your mind, is more than inheritance. It is shaped by experience. This is called epigenetics, how environment and emotion can influence which genes are expressed, and when. It is like a dimmer switch, gently adjusting the volume of the song. The melody remains, but its intensity rises and falls with life. You might carry a gene that whispers anxiety, but a calm, nurturing home may keep it quiet. Or you might carry resilience, yet life may still press too hard and awaken a sadness you didn't expect. So while genes provide possibility, life provides direction, and that direction is full of forks in the road. You learn to walk, not just because you were programmed to, but because someone reached out a hand. You learn to speak, not because your genes said language, but because someone spoke back. We become, in response to what greets us. Even a child born with a perfect genome will still need love, will still make mistakes, will still grow in directions no code could predict. This, too, is science. The messy, brilliant study of how humans become who they are. Neurons grow stronger through use. Experiences sculpt the brain. Thoughts shape hormones. Stress shifts biology. Joy rewires memory. This means you are not only what you were given, you are what you've lived, and who you've loved, and what you've feared, and how you've recovered. The genome is not a script. It's more like a seed, and every seed needs the right conditions to bloom fully. You may carry potential that never gets triggered. You may grow strength you were never coded for, because life isn't coded. It's lived. Tonight, you float in that truth, that your body contains the code, but your soul contains the becoming. And that becoming is never finished. It's not bound by age. It doesn't stop at adulthood. It continues, quietly, beautifully, through every new day. The child you once were is still becoming. The adult you are now still rearranges pieces of the self, like puzzle tiles shifting in soft hands. And every experience, every quiet heartbreak, every little win, adds something new to the person you are. Scientists call this plasticity, especially in the brain. It means flexibility. It means you change, even when the code doesn't. You can rewire. You can adapt. You can soften what was hard and strengthen what was weak. So what does that mean for the edited child? It means their story isn't fixed. Even with a changed gene, they are still fully human, still fragile, still evolving. They may grow into joy, or into anger, into empathy, or ambition, not because of the edit, but because of how the world holds them. And if they're told, you were designed, what does that feel like? A gift? A burden? A prophecy? That, too, shapes them. Labels become self-perception. Expectations become pressure, or freedom. You are resting now, but your mind knows these truths. It has felt the weight of becoming, the pressure of what others thought you could be, the quiet rebellion of becoming something else instead. Even now, you continue to shift. Even in sleep, your cells renew. Your thoughts settle into new shapes. You heal in small, invisible ways. And so will the children of tomorrow, edited or not. Because beyond the code is everything that makes us fully alive. Laughter, music, grief, forgiveness, first crushes, old regrets, art that makes you cry, conversations you replay in the shower, moments when someone chose you, even when you didn't feel worthy. The code cannot measure these things, but they build you. They form your internal architecture more deeply than a single gene ever could. So tonight, as you lie there soft and still, you are reminded, you are more than your beginning. You are more than your bloodline. You are even more than your potential. You are what you've lived, and how you've lived through it. The blueprint whispered the opening lines. But you, your heart, your breath, your choices, wrote the rest. And as you drift toward dreams, a final soft question floats toward you. If you are more than your code, could we raise children, not just by editing their DNA, but by editing the world they grow in? A better school, a gentler home, a society with space for softness. Because maybe the most powerful edits are not in the gene, but in the garden around it. The garden outside is still. You've walked its paths gently, with care, seen how genes bloom in silence, how choices ripple through generations, how love, intention, and place shape the story far beyond the code. But now, you turn inward once more, to the place where all gardens are mirrored, where biology meets memory, where thought touches matter. You arrive at the mind, not the brain as a diagram, but the brain as it lives. Soft, warm, changing in the dark. A field of quiet lightning. A sea of shifting possibility. Because what if the greatest edits are the ones you make inside? This is neuroplasticity, the science of how your mind molds itself through every moment, every emotion, every touch, every thought you allow to linger. You were not born with a fixed brain. No one is. From the first cry to the last breath, your mind rewires, reaches, reshapes itself in response to the world. And to you, imagine a child learning to walk. Each fall teaches the brain. Balance improves. Neural pathways grow stronger as effort becomes ease. Or picture the adult, relearning speech after an injury. New routes form. Old habits reroute. Healing happens not just in muscle, but in thought. This flexibility is not fantasy. It is structure. It is biology. It is you. And it means that your environment is not just what surrounds you. It becomes part of you. Every moment of care, every story read aloud, every quiet act of patience shapes neurons, connects circuits, changes how you think and how you feel. This is why the garden matters. Because the brain listens to what it hears most. If it hears love, it grows trust. If it hears fear, it builds walls. If it hears shame, it rewires around avoidance. But if it hears safety, curiosity, forgiveness, it grows differently, brighter, more open, more connected. This is the final layer of becoming. Beyond the code, beyond the soil, the self that chooses how to respond. Because genes may shape what you can be, and the world may shape what you're allowed to be. But only you, in the quiet space between stimulus and response, shape what you decide to be. And that space, that's where the mind lives. As you lie still now, tucked inside this long, soft journey, you may begin to realize something. You are not the seed. You are not even the soil. You are the gardener of your thoughts, your reactions, your beliefs. Not perfectly, not always, but enough. Enough to matter. And if that's true, then every gentle choice you make, every time you pause instead of react, every time you forgive, every time you soften, you are editing something too. You are shaping not only your own life, but the lives that touch yours. Just like a geneticist edits a single cell, that ripples through a lifetime. So does kindness ripple through the minds around you. You've now walked through every part of this journey. The code, the choice, the child, the world, the self. And it leads here to this quiet realization that the future is not only built in labs, it's built in living rooms, in the way we hold one another's complexity, in the way we choose to raise each other up. So yes, we can design future generations, but not just through CRISPR, not just through sequence, through presence, through culture, through thought and care, and the slow, daily editing of the kind of world we want to become. As you drift now, deeper into rest, let these final truths settle beside you, that you were shaped by many hands, some microscopic, some emotional, some historical, that you are still shaping, still softening, still becoming, that your genes gave you a beginning, but your life, your choices, your mind, they gave you everything else. And now, the garden sleeps, the seed quiets, the mind stills. You breathe slowly, deeply, fully. You have come through the whole journey, from molecule to meaning, from blueprint to bloom. And here, in this moment of gentle quiet, you rest in the final knowing that the most powerful science of all is not the one that changes others, but the one that helps you gently change yourself. Good night.